Most people think the magic of a great song comes from the band whose name is on the record sleeve, the singer, the guitarist, the famous face on stage. But behind many of the most legendary songs in music history, there's a hidden truth few fans ever hear about. Sometimes the band wasn't enough. Sometimes the song was falling apart. And sometimes the person who saved it wasn't even credited. They were session musicians. Session players are hired guns. They don't chase fame. They don't demand the spotlight. They walk into the studio, read the room, and fix problems nobody else can. When a song isn't working, when the groove feels wrong, when the chorus falls flat, they step in quietly and change everything. And in many cases, they save the song. The invisible heroes of the studio session musicians are professionals hired specifically to record parts in the studio. Unlike band members, they're expected to deliver perfect performances quickly, often with little rehearsal. They listen once, understand the song instantly, and know exactly what it needs. No ego, no drama, just results. Producers rely on them when bands are exhausted, inexperienced, or stuck creatively. Sometimes the original musicians simply can't play what the song demands. Other times the track needs a feel the band has never touched before. That's when the call goes out. The bass line that changed everything. One of the most famous examples comes from Motown. James Jamerson, a session bassist with the Funk Brothers, played on hundreds of hit records. Many listeners assumed the bands themselves played those unforgettable bass lines. They didn't. Jamerson's bass didn't just support the songs, it defined them. When artists like Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, and Stevie Wonder entered the studio, Jamerson often created bass parts so melodic and complex that they became the emotional backbone of the song. Without him, many of those records simply wouldn't feel the same. Yet for years, his name barely appeared anywhere. When the band couldn't nail it, in the 1970s, studio perfection became expensive. Time was money, and labels didn't want endless retakes. If a drummer couldn't lock into the groove, a session drummer replaced them. If the guitarist's tone didn't sit right, someone else plugged in. This wasn't personal. It was survival. Many famous bands quietly relied on session musicians to complete their biggest hits. The public never knew. The records sounded flawless, and the myth stayed intact. The guitar riff that saved the track. Sometimes a song is missing one thing, a hook. A session guitarist might hear a nearly finished track and say, "What if we try this?" One riff, one chord change, one subtle fill. Suddenly the song comes alive. Producers loved session players because they weren't emotionally attached. They weren't protecting their image. They just wanted the song to work. And when it didn't, they fixed it. Drummers who brought the feel. Drumming is often where songs fail. A song can have great lyrics and melody, but if the rhythm feels stiff, the entire track collapses. Session drummers are masters of feel. They know when to play behind the beat, when to push forward, and when silence is more powerful than sound. Many classic rock, pop, and soul recordings owe their groove to session drummers who walked in, listened once, and laid down a take that couldn't be improved. Sometimes the band drummer stayed. Sometimes they didn't. The song survived either way. Backing vocals that made the chorus. Another unsung role belongs to session vocalists. Those soaring harmonies, those perfectly stacked choruses, those emotional background lines, often sung by professionals brought in at the last moment. They didn't just sing notes. They understood emotion, blend, and restraint. A weak chorus can sink a song. A powerful harmony can turn it into a hit. Session singers knew how to lift without overpowering, how to support without stealing focus, and when they were done, they disappeared. Why session musicians rarely got credit. The music industry sold images, not accuracy. Fans wanted to believe their favorite band did everything themselves. Labels encouraged that illusion. Album credits were small. Interviews avoided details. Session musicians were paid, thanked, and sent home. Many of them played on dozens of hit songs without the public ever knowing their names. They didn't complain. That was the job. The producer's secret weapon: great producers know when to protect a band and when to protect the song. Session musicians were the producer's safety net. When tensions rose, when deadlines loomed, when creativity stalled, they brought calm, skill, and solutions. No arguments, no ego clashes, just music. Sometimes the band never even realized how close the song came to failure. Legacy without fame. Today, music historians are slowly uncovering the truth behind many legendary recordings. They're discovering how often session musicians were the glue holding everything together. These players weren't chasing stardom, they were chasing excellence, and in doing so, they shaped the sound of entire eras. The real lesson: when session musicians save a song, they remind us of something important. Music isn't about names, it's about listening. It's about knowing when to step forward and when to step back. The greatest songs survive not because of ego, but because someone cared enough to make them better, even if no one ever knew their name. What's a song you later found out was saved by a session musician? Drop it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more hidden stories from music history.